here. And
Yeah.
Ric Flair in a tag match, not something we saw a lot of in this era. I mean, just a few months prior is when Sting beat him at Great American Bash 90 and became the world champ. We're used to Flair in the main event. We're trying something new here with Sting in the main event. Did you feel like that was a risk? I mean, Rick had been in the main event of almost every pay-per-view at this point, Tony. Did you feel like this was a risk for him not to be there?
Yeah, I did. And I think this showed how much Jim Herd did not like Ric Flair. I really think, and Flair can tell you this as well. I think Herd, pushed him down. I remember Herd telling me, he said, you know what, the long blonde hair, it's well documented, long blonde hair and the robes, we need him to cut his hair short and put that diamond earring in and say, diamonds are forever. And so is Ric Flair. And I remember looking at him like, what the fuck ever, dude. I should have said, you know what? You're out of your fucking mind. That's what I should have said. I should have been more vocal about that.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think I would have changed what Flair was doing. However, I do think it's probably worth a try to have a baby face on top. I mean, you see the success that the WWF is enjoying with Hulk Hogan, and now I guess at this point, the Ultimate Warrior. So maybe it makes sense to try a baby face on top with the neon colors and the bright face paint.
Face painted baby face.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, but for whatever reason, WCW didn't turn a profit when Flair was on top. So if you continue to do the same thing and get the same result, maybe it is time to try something else. But as we know, the fortune for WCW didn't turn around with a baby face on top either.
No, and I think many people saw us as a bastardized version of the WWE. And I think you got to cut your own way through. Sting and the Ultimate Warrior were, of course, a tag team. Now we got baby face painting his face, screaming, and people say, it's a knockoff of the Ultimate Warrior. There could be some truth in that. I don't know. It's hard to predict.
Two all-time greats in the ring right now. Ron Simmons, who's going to go on to become the man eventually, but here he's a tag team champion with Butch Reed taking on Arn Anderson. Arn, man, this is about as good as Arn ever looked. He looks fantastic here.
He does look great, man. What's he doing?
Boy, right there. Does that not look like he's related to Brock Anderson? Have you ever seen those two guys in the same room at the same time? Now that I'm thinking about it.
Perpetually 40-year-old Arn Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just has that same look.
Yeah. There was a case of guys just taking their time. Hey, we've been talking about who follows this and can you follow this, and the fans are not having it. I wonder who is going to follow Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson at the pay-per-view.
It's got to close, right?
Ooh. I mean, the way it's built, you would think so.
Yeah,
that's the first match that was announced. Probably
I hope it closes.
I don't know what can follow it.
Yeah, I hope we don't open up with it. Because there's a thought, and they're right.
Yeah, to separate
open up hot.
Yes,
you like to open up hot, finish hot, and I get it. But man, Lord of mercy, that should end it.
Yeah, Tony, what's your thought on? There's the school of thought that hey, you're world champion. If your world champion has a singles match for the title, it should go on last. What do you think?
I've always thought that should be it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see why Sting went on last in Greensboro. I get that. Yeah. The whole show was about him.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, in other pay-per-views, the three-way match should have been the last one. If Sting's not there, the world title should always be last to me.
Yeah.
But again, that's old school, right? So does old school still apply?
In some cases it does.
Yeah.
It absolutely. I mean, it's there for a reason. You do things to get a reaction, to tell a story, and that reaction is going to change. The story is going to change, but you made the decision in the first place. You have to. And if you don't pay attention to that stuff, I don't know, man. And I don't believe that it should always 100% finish the show, because
Okay.
it just depends. I think if you have a diverse enough product and you have enough stars, like the Sting example, that's like the worst example, because of course, guys wrapping up his career, one of the legendary careers in the history of pro wrestling. What are you going to do after that? Right.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it just depends. If it's a champion and it's his first defense, but you've got tag champions and they've got an angle and it's a loser leaves, or people are going to break up, there's some kind of a stipulation. It's like, well, we want to put some importance on that. Not that our world title isn't important, but then at the same time, if you have something pivotal, you're going to drop the title to a new guy, and then the new guy wins the title and he's halfway up the card. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
do you believe in him or not? Or
Right.
kind of takes away from the moment. It's tricky. That's what's great about pro wrestling. There's no blueprint. You have blueprints, but you can stray from it, and you can say, they should have done it this way, and and then you hear about it before, and I think they should do it this way. They do it another way, and it's fucking better than you ever thought. Like, well, what do I know? Shit.
Right. Well, I can go back to this, and this is why I say the world title goes on last. It just what I knew, what I grew up with.
Of course.
So to me, the all-time biggest match I went to, as well, there are a couple of them, but this stands out more than any, was at the Greensboro Coliseum, where it was the Ric Flair Blackjack Mulligan feud. Now, this was by far the biggest feud that I've ever watched as a fan, and they set it up perfectly to where they had 6-man tag matches with Flair on one side, Blackjack on the other, and every time Blackjack would tag in and Flair was in, Flair would take a powder and tag out. You never got to see them touch each other. So finally, this big feud comes to a head where Blackjack faces Ric Flair at the Greensboro Coliseum, right? Sold out the Greensboro Coliseum. Big deal. But the match that was on last was Harley Race against Dory, it wasn't Dory Funk. It was against, I'll think of it. But anyway, Harley Race comes in as the world champion, and he's on last. Dick Murdoch. It was Harley Race against Dick Murdoch. Murdoch was a big baby face. The world champion comes in, and he faces Dick Murdoch. There was no angle for that at all. None. It's just the world champion's in. He's going to face your top baby face. And that went on last, even though Flair and Blackjack was the draw. And maybe the NWA had a rule that their champion went on last. I don't know. That's back in the old real NWA days. And it was, you'd go to a house show back then, and they would have 3 matches on before the intermission, and then they would have 4 matches after. Always had 7 matches. If it was a big show, sometimes they would have 8 or 9. But it was always match, tag match, take a break, come back, another match, and then your triple main event or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they would call it, triple main event. Wait, I tell you,
Butch Reed's working his ass off here.
yes, he could throw some pretty good working punches, can he?